All right, today we're going to talk about finding the arc length, changing from degrees to radians and radians to degrees, how to convert from one form to the other, and how to evaluate some basic sine, cosine, tangent trig functions, or trig ratios. So first of all, arc length, S, is going to stand for arc length, the length of an arc. And r, of course, is the radius. So s being the distance, how far you're going to travel around a part of the circle. If you go around the whole circle, it's called circumference. And that is equal to the diameter times pi. But if I only want to go around part of the circle, then I can use this formula to figure out the distance. In order to get s by itself, since it's being divided by r equals the angle of rotation, if I multiply both sides by r, then I get the equation s is equal to theta times r. So we multiply the angle of rotation times the radius to get the arc length. So let's see, it says here an example, find the measure of an angle. What is theta? When the radius is 10 inches and the subtended arc is 16 inches. So this is S, this is R, so the angle would equal 16 divided by 10, or about 1.6 radians. Okay, so the initial side of the angle is a side that is, usually we say that's at 0 degrees. This is the initial side right here. It's where you start. Usually it's at 0 degrees, or horizontal to the right of the circle is usually where we start when we measure angles. And the initial side is on the side that the angle starts on. And the terminal side is the side that it ends on. So we have the initial side and the terminal side. Terminal side and the initial side. Okay, to do one rotation in degrees, we do 360 degrees. In radians, the same rotation around a circle is 2 pi. Halfway around the circle is 180. And halfway around the circle in radians is pi. So pi is halfway around the circle, or 3.14 radians. And degrees halfway around the circle is 180. In order to convert from radians to degrees, let's go degrees first. Degrees to radians, you multiply by pi over 180. To go from radians to degrees, you multiply by 180 over pi. Just remember, the one you want goes on top. If you want radians, you put pi on top. If you want degrees, you put 180 on top. So in this example here, if I have 285 degrees and I want this in radians, I times by pi over 180. So here we have 285 divide 180, simplified is 19/12. So here we have 19 pi 12 radians. Okay, 20, I can do this one in my head. If I do 20 times pi over 180, both end with a 0, so now I have 2 pi over 18, which is pi over 9 radians. 45 is right off the circle. We did that yesterday. That is pi fourths. I just memorized that one. Now if we go the other direction, if I've got radians, I want to put it into degrees. I'm going to times by 180 over pi. Here the pi's cancel. 9 goes into 18 twice, so that's 20 times 17, 340 degrees. But you can also do that on the calculator. Just do the 17 times 180, divide 9, 340 degrees. Okay, so the next one, we're going to times by 180 divided by pi. Again, the pi's cancel. 3 goes into 18 6 times, so that's 60 times 10. Let's see, 60 times 10, just add a 0, that's 600. Pi thirds, again, this one's right off the circle, that's 60 degrees. This one, you just memorize that one. Or look at your unit circle. Okay, sometimes you have angles that are not on the unit circle, and in that case, you want to evaluate them, just use your calculator. If you want to, you don't have a cosecant, secant, or cotangent button on your calculator, so if those arise, cosecant will be 1 divided by sine of your angle. Secant is 1 divided by cosine, and cotangent is 1 divided by tangent. So each of these you just plug into the calculator and round them off to the nearest. It says here round to the nearest thousandth. Play with your calculator. If you want cosine 32, type cosine 32. Now, we assume that if it doesn't have pi's, we're in degrees. So cosine 32, make sure you're in degrees on your calculator. If you've got pi in the angle, then switch it to radians. You'll notice that as I do that, the answer changes just a little bit. In degrees, it's 0.848. In radians, it's 0.834. It's a little different. So make sure you know whether you want it in degrees or radians. In this case, 32 is probably in degrees. Yeah, it's got the little degree symbol, 32 degrees. So I want 0.85. Let's just go 0.85. Oh, no, it said nearest thousand, so that's 3 decimal places, 0.848. Okay, if it has pi's, switch your mode over to radians. So sine of 2 pi fifths, this time I want to be in radians. Sine of 2 pi fifths, 0.951. Make sure that you're in radians, 0.951. Again, just practice putting those in your calculators. Make sure you switch back and forth between degrees or radians. If it has a little circle right there, then we're in degrees. If it has pi's in it, then we assume we're in radians. Just practice typing those into your calculator.